Welcome to Beyond the Law.
Beyond Law Group's podcast that brings you unfiltered conversations
with our lawyers, clients and friends.
We'll be having frank discussions about our experiences in the legal sector,
sharing our thoughts on current topics from a legal and a personal standpoint,
as well as offering our top tips for those pursuing a career in law.
Beyond the Law.
Beyond the Law.
Beyond the Law.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Law podcast. My name is Jason Stanley and I'm delighted to host today's episode entitled My Journey into the Law. Today's guests are three young rising stars within the Beyond Law Group from different aspects of the business. To my left is Lucy Cresswell, a solicitor in the private client vault element of the business. To my right is Charles Farrington. He's a solicitor at the home property law aspect of the business. And finally, last but not least, Tunisha Kumar, a trainee solicitor in the corporate team. Welcome all and thank you for your time. It's a fascinating subject, the journey into the law. We have an array of young solicitors who have had very different journeys to becoming where they're at now. I know you're on your journey still, you haven't quite got there yet. We're all going to share different ideas and anecdotes of how we've got to where we're at the moment. Lucy, we're going to start with you. Yeah. I know that you did a degree in criminology, which is not strictly a pure law degree. No. And I'd like to share a few ideas and instances of how you've got to where you're at. What's the journey been like?
It's been different probably to a traditional law route that most people have done. I did some work experience with quite a fascinating barrister at Cobden House Chambers in Manchester. And it was this guy who put his wig on and said to me, don't do a law degree like that. Right. And I just got really inspired by him and kind of followed his kind of guidance to say that it offers you a fresh perspective to not do a law degree.
And how old were you when you had that conversation?
16.
All right, so you're quite impressionable.
Yeah, so just, I don't know, I took a liking to him and did criminology and then thought I would always convert to law. Did my criminology degree and then started doing some more work experience in paralegal roles. Then when I was a paralegal, then COVID hit and then I lost my job. And then I went into the Trafford Centre to be a shop assistant. And then I had an interview at J&W where I was an admin assistant.
Oh, okay.
Then I went back to being promoted to a paralegaled for a bit, and then got a role as like the SQE. So I started the SQE as one of the first people to do that.
And it was just that had just come into, I don't know, it was a new option available. You were one of the very first.
Yeah, so you had the option to do the LPC or the SQE, but purely money, because it was cheaper than the LPC and the conversion. I was like, it sounds like a good thing to do. So I just did that while I was working at J&W as a paralegal.
And how long was the course, just out of interest?
2 years.
So you did it part-time?
Yeah, right. So like after work and stuff, and then lunchtimes and things like that, and then passed that and then qualified as a solicitor at J&W.
And because you did criminology, which is quite a niche area of law, I'm thinking you've obviously studied crime, evidence pace, all the kind of things that were what I can remember in criminal law. But presumably you covered topics like contract, tort, and all the sort of heavyweight elements of the legal process in your SQE, is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same content as the LPC,
right,
but in an SQE format. It was very new and I don't think people had faith in it at that point. But now there's no LPC, so you can't actually do that. And it was challenging because I'd never heard of dispute resolution and things like that because I was purely private client in every paralegal role I've done. So it took a lot of work, but it was okay in the end.
So the content of the SQE is nothing like the LPC, is that correct?
Yeah, so it is different. The threshold that you're examined at is different. So the LPC threshold is a trainee solicitor, whereas with the SQE, the threshold is a qualified solicitor.
I see.
So the difference in that is really noticeable in the SQE because you have to basically step out that exam and then you are a solicitor. And you could feel that and the depth and the knowledge, but it's quite practical. So my advice is any paralegals, they have a higher success rate with SQE because they've done letters, they've done the hard work like paralegals do, and I think it gives you a bit of an edge.
Fantastic, that's very interesting, thank you. Charles, your journey into the law, when we did some research for this, is similar to mine, rather traditional. So in contrast to Lucy's, talk the listeners or the readers through your process after doing your GCSEs, because I think you did a BTEC in law, in applied law, which you need to explain, which is different. And I wondered if that gave you a bit of an edge when you did your degree.
Yeah, it's an interesting one really, because I was never destined to get into law really. When I got to college, I mean, I did well in my GCSEs, but I didn't do fantastic.
Okay.
It was a part of my life where I was sort of, a part of everyone's life where you sort of deciding what you want to do, and I don't think anyone really has an idea what they want to do at that stage. So when it came to applying for courses when I got to college, I didn't get the GCSE score that I wanted. I mean, traditionally, I wanted to get into teaching. That's what I wanted to do. But because I didn't get a good enough GCSE score, I was recommended to do applied law, BTEC in applied law. And at that stage, I was like, you know what, why not? You know, it sounds interesting. And then the more I actually did it, I actually found that I really loved it, and I was quite good at it.
Excellent.
So it's always interesting to sort of take a step back and think how my life could have been different.
Because you took a bit of a risk, I guess.
Exactly,
You went for it.
Something I had no knowledge of
Love
at
it.
all before.
Fantastic.
And I think it's fair enough to say the risk paid off. You know, I wouldn't be sat here otherwise speaking to you.
So you do your degree.
Yeah.
You do the LPC, unlike Lucy, so you
Mhm.
did the sort of more traditional
Yeah.
route. And then how did you find getting into a legal workplace?
I think it's extremely difficult. I mean, the legal profession is very competitive.
And it's oversubscribed. I mean, still
Yes,
there's very popular
it's very
degree.
saturated, I think, and getting a graduate job, landing that first role
Yes.
is incredibly difficult.
Okay.
I was very lucky. I started in a high street firm just outside of Manchester.
Okay.
When I finished my LPC, I was scrambling for graduate jobs. I was just applying everywhere. Something I don't recommend at all. I mean, plan ahead, you know. But when I landed that role, I started like Lucy as a paralegal, doing stuff that I'd never thought I'd do before.
Such as?
Getting into conveyancing, I did a bit of wills and probate, a bit of contentious work here and there.
Okay.
And again, found out that I was quite good at it. So when it come to being signed off and qualifying, that's when I decided to sort of make the move, and here I am now.
Amazing, amazing, interesting. Tunisha, you're a trainee solicitor at the moment, and it's not been an easy route. And unlike Charles and myself, you did your degree, you got your qualification, and then you applied and got a role in a personal injury firm, which is completely different to what we do now. Do you think being a paralegal has stood you in good stead?
Definitely. I think I developed some of my skills early on working in the hospitality industry. Like Charles said, it's really difficult to get your first legal job. I struggled quite a lot for a long time, so I was working in the hospitality industry, but I gained confidence, you know, just speaking to people, skills that you do apply every day in our jobs now. And with that, and then I went into PI. I tried, like Charles, applying everywhere. It was the only job I could get, but I'm so grateful for that job because I learned, you know, the basic skills of drafting, dealing with difficult clients, managing client expectations, things like that.
You've gained the soft skills at a very early basic level that you've brought then into the progression of your career.
Yeah, definitely.
So you won't mind me saying this because we've had this discussion, but you did apply for a job first time round here and you didn't get it.
Yeah.
And my question for you is, as difficult as that was, do you think objectively now in 2025 it was the right decision from your point of view or the firm's?
Yeah, looking back, I think I can accept that I wasn't ready for the role here. I developed my skills further, and then I came back. I showed resilience. I still wanted to join the firm. I wanted to be here.
I want to pick up on that resilience point because that is such an important skill set for this job, because it's not, as Charles said, going through the process is tough, but actually doing the job as a solicitor isn't easy, you know. And so that resilience process that you went through surely is a good attribute, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have setbacks all the time. I'm obviously the most junior here, but I think you can all agree it happens every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of sort of focusing on the process, I'd like to just ask each of you, I'll go back to you, Lucy, if you don't mind. I know for a fact that you're an elite dancer. You've competed on an international level representing this country, and you've won awards and accolades, and you came second or third in a competition. I'm intrigued to know how that, to me as an outsider, you must be creative, physically disciplined. It must be challenging on so many different levels to what you now do in an office environment, working with people, planning their futures, their wealth planning. That couldn't be more disparate. And I wondered if you think some of those skills of that passion you've got filters into the workplace a lot at all.
Yeah, I think being a dancer growing up was like from being 2 to 16, and then reality at 16. I knew that when my dance teacher was saying, don't be bothered about those GCSEs, you'll be fine, just carry on with your dance exams. I was like, no, I want to be a lawyer. I knew I was quite lucky. I say this to people all the time. I was lucky I knew what I wanted to do.
Right.
So the plan was, I could be Justin Bieber's backing dancer, but also a lawyer. But no, I had to put that on the back burner. And I had to stop doing that. But I still did it at university on the dance teams. Still do it now at networking events. And I think it gives you something. So there's always a way, if you've got another passion, I think, to make the law fun, and I think Beyond as a group is good at that.
Yeah, we celebrate that kind of
Yeah.
extracurricular element of, or how do you bring that to your sort of professional career? But no, that's it's a Cinderella story of sorts,
Yes.
isn't it? That's what you said in the email
Yeah.
to me when we were doing our
Anything
research.
Disney, yeah. But no, it's
That's
about
the flamboyant
hard
side.
work, and I think this job you have to be hardworking to kind of get through
Oh,
it.
for
'Cause
sure.
It's hard. But no, it's something I'll always do, and it was nice to look back on. But I always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer.
So you followed your heart. We might go off-piste a little bit, Charles, and talk about whether the perception that this industry we're in, which is possibly the preserve of the professional middle classes, is accessible to people who maybe come from a different socio-economic background, and whether you think the rise of social mobility is prevalent in this era. Do you agree with that scenario?
Yeah, I think over the past couple of years we've seen the momentum change. I mean, take for example the routes you can take into law now.
Yes.
It's not just, the LPC isn't around anymore, but you got the SQE. You've got so many more opportunities beyond work experience, for example, that we put on for students. It is gradually changing, and I think as a profession we are so deep rooted in tradition. That's now beginning to change, and we can slowly see that, but I still think we do have quite a long way to go.
If somebody had a regional accent, for instance, and there may be a perception that perhaps holds them back to progress, but surely you're appealing to clients who are just normal working people who can relate to you.
Yeah.
They're buying a house, so that's your industry.
Yeah.
Does that hold you back, do you think? Do you think it's something that people engage with on a certain level? You're not the sort of lofty solicitor,
Yeah.
you're just a normal working
Yeah,
person.
I think just touching on the work that I do, I'm unapologetically northern. People know where I'm from. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to put a fake accent on.
Yes.
And I think that works wonders with clients. I think clients relate a lot better.
That's precisely my point.
Exactly,
isn't it?
yeah. And I think it works perfectly for me when I'm speaking to clients. My role is very client facing.
Yes.
And if I can relate to a client a lot better, or maybe be a bit more persuasive in the things that I'm saying because they believe in what I'm saying.
It's authentic, it's genuine.
It's authentic and genuine, yeah. And it works wonders as opposed to putting on a front of what people think a lawyer should be.
And then on the flip side, this industry, when you look at, deciding to, I'm going to go like Lucy, I'm going to be a lawyer. The financing of getting to that point is still a problem, isn't it? Because it's expensive.
Yes, respectfully, I don't buy the overriding objective of the SQE. The purpose of the SQE, as far as I understand, is to make it more accessible for people, who don't come from legal backgrounds or professional backgrounds to get into the industry.
Yes.
I think we're getting there, but there's still a barrier. There's a financial barrier.
Pause there. What do you say to that?
I think it's really difficult. Someone like me I didn't get any sponsorship from the law firm I was at. I had to work and I was being paid a normal paralegal role, and I don't think if someone who wasn't in a paralegal role because they've struggled to get their foot in their door, how do you afford to study law? I think it's really difficult for people.
Your option is you go into debt,
Yeah.
or you do it part-time if you don't have the financial backing to pay for the SQE.
Yes.
The SQE there's the SQE exam, which is about £2,500 when I did it, but you have to pay a provider to teach you the SQE, which is about £10,000. I don't know what it is now, but that's the cost that you're looking at.
If I'm going to be devil's advocate, when I did my LPC, I had actual working lawyers. My litigation tutor worked at an exceptionally good law firm in Leeds. And the fee that I was paying, it was about £10,000 at the time, was paying for his hourly rate to teach me actual first-hand, exceptional legal skills. That's what it paid for. So the flip side to that could be, well, if you don't pay for it, do you get quality teaching?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think that this is my argument, is that we're supposed to be uprooting the traditions and making it more accessible to people, but we're actually putting in more barriers. And by putting in those barriers, we're turning away a huge pool of talent. You know, people who don't come from these legal backgrounds, like a lot of us here on the panel. Imagine turning away that talent and what it can actually do for the industry. It's quite shocking.
It's stifling, isn't it? You're not
Yeah.
opening up to different pools of talent. You and I are part of a work experience program. I'm a contributor, but you run it with a couple of our other colleagues. It's very impressive. But how important do you think that is? Because the program is open to anybody to apply from different backgrounds, ethnicities, minorities, and so on and so forth, just to get a taste of what it's like in a successful law firm. Do you place value in that?
Of course. So like I said before, my background, I struggled to get legal work experience. And, you know, when you apply for your first paralegal role, they want someone who has experience, but nobody's willing to give the experience. It's just a difficult challenge. But I think it's really important that we help the next generation gain experience. You know, we offer a 4-day placement across a variety of our specialist areas and practices. And, you know, studying, we can all go to uni, we can all learn, but actually being in the office environment, studying, not studying, doing the practical tasks, you do learn a lot. And you can, even just from the 4 days, you can get a taste of what you do like and not, because it's very different in practice than your textbook.
We will give a case summary for it. So when I do my little element, I will give 2 case summaries, very generic, and then say if you were a solicitor, and I appreciate they don't know the law, but applying analytical skills to work out a solution, I try and give them a false sense of what it's like as a solicitor.
Yeah.
Because they don't know the law, but they get involved in that and they really enjoy it. The feedback is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Looking at it through the other lens, because you're now a trainee solicitor, watching their work experience, I imagine that's quite rewarding if you were them 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, you can see how appreciative they are of the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Because these podcasts aren't just off the hoof, there's some research and effort goes into them. And I emailed you guys to say, is there anything specific you'd like to address in terms of a journey into the law? And I think unanimously, having a bit of an imposter syndrome, which is actually a nice thing to say in the sense that you're not egos, you're not arrogant, and you kind of have to pinch yourself to say, wow, I've made it, and it's been a tough journey. Would that be a fair assessment? Do you sometimes wake up and go, I can't actually believe I'm here?
I think it's fair to say I'm feeling a bit of imposter syndrome right now, sat in the panel.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, especially being junior, I'm like a 1-year PQE, I always have to pinch myself and remind myself the journey that I've been on to get here. But the way I sort of see imposter syndrome is just sort of flip it on its head, right, and say it's an ability, it's the chance to sort of reflect and check yourself and, you know, check your ego, because it's very easy to get sort of, I don't know, overwhelmed and
swept up
in it all, and it's a chance to just reflect and sort of tick off all the milestones you've achieved on the way. So I try and see it in a positive light.
And it's not just being a lawyer. There's so many other aspects to the job. There's networking that some people might find a little bit intimidating, talking to strangers, doing podcasts, writing a blog, getting involved. How is it what you expected?
No, to be honest, it's not, but it's more than I ever wanted it to be. I think with the law, our jobs, you get back what you put in. If you want to come to work at 9 and leave at 5:30, you can. But I don't think anyone in this group or this firm wants to do that. Everyone's like a little sparkle and wants to add their own thing to the law. You could stay till 8 and do 10 networking events as long as you make it your own. Because we're basically selling a service and advising clients and making sure that we're giving the best we can. And that comes with other people in the professional network trusting you. And I think that's where imposter syndrome for me sometimes, because it's actually quite a lot about your personal profile. You've got a huge personal profile and people know that's the guy that does the podcast and things like that.
And the excellent legal work.
But it's like, it's imposter syndrome, but also like, this is whatever you want it to be.
Yes.
And you just got to give it everything, I think.
I think there's no substitute for hard work, dedication, bringing a bit of personality, a little bit of creativity, and it can open up so many opportunities. Did I think I was sitting in a podcast studio 3 years ago? Absolutely not. You know, and you're always going to grow. I'm nearly 50, and I'm learning every day and trying to take new opportunities to develop those skills. Every day's a school day, I think.
So, Jason, tell us, does the imposter syndrome go away? Does it get easier?
Never, because you've always got to be on your toes. And as a lawyer, you start out becoming an expert in your field. You then build a reputation, you network, you get referral work. And then as you progress up the career ladder, become a partner, perhaps head of department. Those are different skill sets. I'm now having to manage people. It's a new skill set that I didn't go to university to learn. I'm learning on the job, probably making mistakes. That's good. That's how you grow. That's how you become resilient and develop as an individual and as hopefully a good lawyer and a manager. It's not for everybody. You know, there's some exceptional networkers out there, some exceptional lawyers, but some of them aren't good managers. So I like to test myself and push myself, and I think that's a useful attribute. Doesn't matter what you're doing. So no, not quite. It doesn't always go. I think the day it does, you may need to retire. Anyway, on that note, thank you all for your time, giving up your busy schedules, and I hope you've enjoyed the experience. I know for two of you, it's your first time doing a podcast. You did great, so thank you very much. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Beyond the Law. You can find other episodes wherever you source your podcasts.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Law.
To keep up to date with all things Beyond, follow us on our socials at Beyond Law Group.
You can tune into our next episode wherever you find your podcasts.